The shimmering sky. A subterranean drone, a resonance that set Lily's teeth on edge, began it all. Initially, she dismissed it as Mrs. Gable's perpetually malfunctioning washing machine. But the sound deepened, swelled into an undeniable force in the waning afternoon. Dogs responded with a frantic, escalating bark, a canine alarm rippling through Willow Creek. Binoculars in hand, Lily clambered down the shaky rungs of her treehouse. That lofty perch, erected by her parents years prior, usually framed pastoral scenes, content cows and the winding Silver Creek. Today, the vista was altered. A glint of burnished metal, a sun-snagged splinter of light, hung suspended above McGregor's corn. Silence had replaced the drone, broken only by the keening cries of gulls circling the anomaly like moths hypnotized by a flame. Then came the distortion. More than mere reflected light, it was a visual warping. The air surrounding the craft shimmered, colors smeared and ran like dyes in spilled solvent. The very vault of the sky seemed to peel back, revealing something indescribable, a sight that twisted Lily's gut. People emerged from their homes, pointing and muttering, their faces masks of wonder laced with dread. Old Man Hemlock, a self-proclaimed witness to everything life offered in his 80 years, simply stood mute on his porch, shaking his head, his lips pressed into a bloodless line. Even Mayor Thompson, normally armed with a comforting platitude and a practiced smile, appeared wan and shaken. Lily raised her binoculars, focusing on the object. It defied categorization. Absent were wings or any visible propulsion, merely a sweep of seamless curves alien to Earth's aerodynamics. The shimmering intensified, and for an instant, Lily glimpsed faces? Warped and elongated, yes, but undeniably faces gazing back. She blinked, they dissolved into iridescent, swirling light. A wave of panic washed over the gathering crowd. Mrs. Gable, her washing machine momentarily forgotten, began to keen a lament about the apocalypse. Teenagers brandished their phones, fruitlessly seeking a signal. The atmosphere thrummed with unspoken anxieties. A glacial fist clenched in Lily's stomach. This was no errant weather balloon, no routine military maneuver. This was otherness incarnate. Memories flooded her, countless hours spent beside her parents, immersed in textbooks and schematics, building and refining in their chaotic workshop. They were scientists, explorers, driven by questions others hadn't even conceived. They had, in their way, prepared her for this. Or, at least, equipped her with the means to decipher it. Whispers coiled through the town like tendrils of poison ivy, tales of invasion, alien abduction, government conspiracies. Rumors born of fear and ignorance. Lily shut them out. Whispers were noise. She craved concrete data, verifiable information. Lowering her binoculars, she scanned the town square, her mind a whirlwind of calculations. The hardware store, the library, the radio station, her resources. She needed to understand, not merely observe the spectacle. The shimmering anomaly in the sky pulsed, a silent heartbeat resonating in the deepening twilight. Lily felt a certainty settle deep within her. Willow Creek, and the world beyond, stood on the precipice of irrevocable change. The question now was, could they navigate it? Empty streets, silent houses. The Zorgonian landing craft, a misshapen orb of bolted steel and sparking energy conduits, thumped down onto Main Street. A noxious cloud plumed outwards, momentarily veiling the pastel-painted shops. As the haze dissipated, the hatch hissed open, revealing a duo of Zorgonians outlined against the sickly emerald light spilling from within. They shuffled out, multifaceted eyes darting within their oversized heads, antennae quivering. Status. One grated, its voice a digitized rasp. Sector Gamma designated secure, Supreme Commander Zorp. The other responded, its voice bouncing inside its bulky battle suit. No immediate threats detected. Vital sign readings are minimal. Zorp emitted a rumble, like boulders shifting. Minimal? Where are the inhabitants? Mission parameters specified a Class 3 population cluster. He swept a clawed appendage toward the prim storefronts, Mrs. Higgins' bakery, the tool shop with its lackluster window display, the darkened movie house. This is disconcerting. The second Zorgonian, designated Unit 734, consulted its wrist-mounted device. Perhaps initial bombardment proved more effective than anticipated, Supreme Commander? Structural integrity, however, remains largely intact. Zorp advanced, his armored boots echoing on the deserted pavement. He neared a parked vehicle, a time-worn blue pickup, and peered into the cab. Vacant. The keys dangled from the ignition. He rapped a claw against the side window. It held firm. Rudimentary, but resilient. He scanned the scene once more, a growing disquiet crawling beneath his carapace. Initiate search patterns. Sector Gamma must be secured, and the natives located. Unit 734 offered a rigid salute. Acknowledged, Supreme Commander. It trundled toward the nearest building, the tool shop, and forced the entrance. Silence greeted it, broken only by the faint thrum of the craft's power core. Meanwhile, from her hidden perch in the old church's bell tower looming over Main Street, Lily Chin watched through her binoculars. She gripped the cold railing, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. The Zorgonians were even more repellent up close, their movements awkward and their tech strangely underwhelming. She'd anticipated something grander. Yet their arrival, the eerie quiet that clung to it, was deeply troubling. Lily lowered her binoculars, her gaze drifting across the town. The houses stood dark-windowed and silent, the lawns overgrown. In the park, a swing set swayed to and fro, its rhythmic squeak the only sound. Empty streets, silent homes. A staged ghost town, orchestrated by her and the town's adults. She adjusted the device fastened to her wrist, a jury-rigged radio. They're inside the hardware store. She breathed into the mic. Two of them. Seem perplexed. A crackled reply, barely audible. Roger that, Lily. Stick to the plan. Observe and report. Lily nodded, though unseen. Observe and report. Her role. But a fierce yearning, the ache of missing her parents, stirred within her. A longing to fight back. To make these ghastly aliens atone for shattering their lives, for draping her town in this suffocating hush. Still, she had to be patient. The adults depended on her. The fate of Harmony Creek, and maybe more, hung on her young shoulders. She raised her binoculars once more, focusing on the tool shop. The Zorgonians ventured further inside, their heavy footfalls amplifying in the stillness. The hunt was on. Gadgets and gizmos. The Zorgonian scanning device sputtered, bathing the abandoned hardware store in a sickly green light. Ziziglorg, designated lead technician by virtue of possessing the fewest visible orifices, adjusted the focusing crystal. Negative life signs detected, Supreme Commander. However, anomalous energy signatures are present. Commander Vlarg, whose chitinous armor gleamed under the flickering emergency lights, hissed. Anomalous? Explain. Ziziglorg tapped a manipulator claw against the device. Incoherent. Fluctuating. Like someone is deliberately scrambling the readings. They moved deeper into the store. Lily watched from the bell tower, her stomach a knot of fear and grim satisfaction. Through her binoculars, she saw them stop before her masterpiece, a modified Roomba vacuum cleaner fitted with repurposed firecrackers and a voice recorder. It was programmed to move randomly, and shout increasingly absurd phrases when triggered. The Roomba, sensing movement, whirred to life. Greetings, organic entities. Prepare to be bedazzled, it announced in a synthesized, cheerful voice, before launching a string of firecrackers. The Zorgonians scattered, weapons raised. Disarm it! Vlarg bellowed, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. Ziziglorg cautiously approached the device. He spotted a crudely drawn label taped to the side. Instructions: add glitter for extra sparkle. Do not, under any circumstances, feed after midnight. He recoiled. This makes no logical sense. Lily bit back a laugh, clutching the cold stone of the bell tower wall. It was a pathetic attempt at resistance, she knew, but it was all she had. Her parents, she swallowed hard. Were they even still? She pushed the thought away. Despair was a luxury she couldn't afford. Further into the store, the Zorgonians encountered another of her creations, a complex network of tripwires connected to an array of pots, pans, and air horns. Another label. Emergency. In case of zombie apocalypse, or alien invasion. May require minor adjustments. Vlarg kicked at a wire, setting off a cacophony of noise. Pots and pans clattered, air horns blared, and the Zorgonians flinched. This is unsettling, Ziziglorg admitted, his antennae twitching nervously. Their defense mechanisms are illogical. Unpredictable. Vlarg growled. They are attempting to confuse us. A primitive tactic. But even he looked slightly unnerved. The sheer randomness of the contraption suggested a mind that didn't think the way they did, a mind that embraced chaos. Lily scribbled in her notebook, detailing the Zorgonians' reactions. Their frustration was palpable, almost delicious. She was a scientist, after all. Observation was key. And maybe, just maybe, she could use their confusion to her advantage. The scanning device beeped erratically. Ziziglorg stared at the readings, his multifaceted eyes widening. Supreme Commander! I am detecting fluctuations in the gravitational field. Localized distortion. They followed the signal to a back room, where Lily had rigged a series of magnets and mirrors to create a disorienting illusion. The room appeared to shift and warp, creating impossible angles and reflections. Vlarg cautiously entered the room. He saw himself multiplied, distorted, fractured into 100 different images. The room swam before his eyes. He felt a flicker of something he rarely experienced, disorientation. He gripped his weapon tighter. This is witchcraft, he snarled. Lily smiled, a small, fierce smile. Witchcraft, science, madness, whatever it was working. They were confused, frustrated, and slowing down. And that gave her hope. It gave her a reason to keep watching, to keep planning, to keep fighting, even if it was just with glitter, firecrackers, and a healthy dose of absurdity. Pranks and walkie-talkies. Lily adjusted the walkie-talkie, the hiss a familiar counterpoint to the town's eerie quiet. Her vantage in the bell tower offered a hawk's eye view of the Zorgonians' clumsy patrols. Down below, inside the derelict bakery, Maya's flour-dusted fingertip navigated a worn map, sketching out routes. Daniel wrestled with a tangle of wire and a repurposed car battery, grumbling about radio interference. All right, team, Lily murmured into the device, her voice a hushed rasp. Blue Squad, that's Grobner and his sidekick, are meandering east on Elm. Still grappling with pedestrian laws, it seems. Maya, are the signs good to go? Locked, loaded, and ludicrous. Maya replied, a suppressed giggle tickling the speaker. Awaiting your cue. Daniel glanced up, spanner in hand. This electromagnetic doohickey is almost online. Should thoroughly garble their signals. Ours will be crystal clear, though. Guaranteed. A fleeting warmth touched Lily's face in the chill of the tower. A small defiance against the invasion's crushing weight. She yearned for her parents, pictured them sheltering somewhere, clinging to safety. This was her rebellion. Commence Operation Clucktastrophe. Lily instructed. The following moments erupted in a flurry of action. Maya, a whirlwind of agility, swapped the Elm Street marker with one proclaiming, Chicken Danceway. Daniel flipped the switch on his device, a low thrum vibrating through the bakery as a cacophony of bewildered squawks flooded the Zorgonian patrol's frequency. From her perch, Lily observed with a tight-lipped satisfaction as Grobner and company, now misled, blundered directly into a carefully constructed mountain of rubber chickens. The Zorgonians recoiled, their multifaceted eyes wide with bewilderment and, Lily imagined, a prickle of ancient dread. Did you just see that? Maya squealed into the walkie-talkie. There, inspecting the poultry for explosives. Next up, Operation Cognitive Dissonance. Daniel announced, his voice bubbling with manic energy. I've reprogrammed the traffic lights to do whatever their little electronic hearts desire. Pure, unadulterated pandemonium. Lily watched as the signals pulsed in a bizarre sequence, green, red, yellow, indigo, cerulean, hues that defied the spectrum. A Zorgonian transport lurched to a standstill, its occupants emerging with what looked like diagnostic probes. They poked and scanned the lights, their throaty pronouncements echoing in the desolate streets. They appeared to be contemplating the meaning of existence. Lily chuckled, a genuine sound this time. Operation Cognitive Dissonance achieved. Daniel confirmed, his voice laced with pride. Moving on to Phase 3, the Feathered Air Force. Pigeons? Lily inquired, a spark of curiosity igniting. I may or may not have trained them to prioritize Zorgonian craniums, Daniel confessed, mischief dancing in his tone. Lily arched a brow. Daniel, you're a brilliantly terrifying individual. The walkie-talkie sputtered to life, followed by Maya's breathless voice. Lily, you are not going to believe this. They're calling in reinforcements. The commanding officer looks like he's about to detonate. From the bell tower, Lily saw the Zorgonian commander, his face a shade of violet approaching combustion, barking orders at his bewildered troops. The pigeons, emboldened by their training, swooped and strafed, creating a feathered maelstrom around the aliens. This is remarkably effective, Lily conceded, a surge of hope warming her. Perhaps they could make this invasion a bit more irritating. A little more anarchic. A little more enjoyable. Remember, Lily stated, her voice steady and resonant through the device. They may have the firepower, but we have the ingenuity. A baker's spicy surprise. The familiar aroma of cinnamon and baked apples, ordinarily a comforting blanket over the town square, now carried a sharp, unsettling undercurrent, something sinister. Inside his bakery, Mr. Abernathy, flour ghosting his brow, attacked the dough with his rolling pin, muttering about Zorgonian nuisances, and their bottomless appetites. Lilychin, perched in the bell tower, her gaze fixed on the square below, watched the predictable patrol. Those bulbous-headed horrors, the Zorgonians, lumbered across the cobblestones, their laser rifles reflecting the sunlight. The ache of missing her parents was a constant, a dull throb of uncertainty. Were they safe, even alive? But today, a tiny ember of hope flickered amidst the despair. From her high vantage point, she observed Mr. Abernathy's bakery. He'd been working at a fever pitch lately, his ovens burning late into the night. He'd claimed a new apple pie recipe was the cause, but Lily suspected more. The furtive glances at the Zorgonian patrols, the perpetually drawn shutters, something was brewing. Then, he emerged, carrying a tray overflowing with burnished pies, far more than he ever produced, even for the autumn festival. He moved with surprising speed for a man his age, his movements almost secretive. He arranged the pies on a never-before-seen makeshift table outside his bakery, then vanished back inside, the door clicking shut behind him. Predictably, the Zorgonians were lured in by the tantalizing smell. Two broke away from the patrol, waddling toward the table, their multifaceted eyes blinking with alien curiosity. They prodded the pies with their strange appendages. Lily fought back a shudder. The larger one seized a pie, inhaling deeply. A wet, gurgling sound escaped it, Zorgonian 4. Appetizing, she presumed. The initial bite seemed innocuous. Another pleased gurgle, and then the alien's bulbous head jerked. Its multifaceted eyes widened, tears welling up. A piercing squeal erupted as it dropped the pie, thrashing its limbs wildly. The second Zorgonian, bewildered, bit into its own pie. Its reaction mirrored the first, only louder and more exaggerated. Lily nearly laughed. Almost. The Zorgonians sputtered, choked, and frantically waved their limbs before their faces. The heat was clearly intense. Mr. Abernathy's apple pie recipe wasn't just dessert. It was a spiced-up weapon of delicious retribution. She chanced a glance at the bakery. The shutters remained closed, but she could almost sense Mr. Abernathy's triumphant grin radiating outwards. He'd done it. He'd discovered a way to retaliate, to inflict a little pain upon the invaders, one spicy pie at a time. The surrounding Zorgonians had taken note of the disturbance. They approached warily, laser rifles raised. The two burning Zorgonians continued to hop around, wailing and clutching their midsections. It was an almost comical sight, a bizarre and unexpected moment amidst the grim reality of occupation. Lily refocused, her gaze sweeping across the square. With the Zorgonians distracted, she needed to stay vigilant. She had to be their eyes in the sky, their silent protector. And, she thought, a small, determined smile playing on her lips, she would find a way to thank Mr. Abernathy. His fiery surprise was more than just a prank, it was a signal. A symbol of resistance, of defiance, of the unyielding spirit of a town that refused to be subjugated. The peace meeting. A guttural roar, amplified by Zorgonian technology, blasted across the deserted town square. Humans! Grochner demands a meeting! Noon tomorrow. By the statue of the Iron Horse. Come unarmed. Or face annihilation. Lily, perched in the bell tower, winced. The air still vibrated from the Zorgonian's pronouncement. She rubbed her temples, the image of her parents, their faces etched with worry, flashing through her mind. They would be terrified if they knew what she was planning. But someone had to protect this town, even if it meant playing a dangerous game. Annihilation, huh? She muttered, adjusting the makeshift telescope fashioned from scavenged lenses. Always with the drama. Slipping down the worn wooden steps, she found Maya and David waiting, their faces grim. He wants a meeting. Lily stated, unnecessary as it was. It's a trap, David said, clenching his fists. Of course it's a trap, Lily agreed. But it's a trap we can use. We'll give him what he wants, a meeting, and a peace offering. Maya frowned. What peace offering? We're practically out of everything. Lily grinned, a spark of something almost manic in her eyes. Not everything. We have Mr. Abernathy. Mr. Abernathy, the town baker, was a man of quiet habits and explosive spice blends. When Lily explained her plan, his usual placid expression twisted into something resembling gleeful anticipation. A peace offering, you say? He chuckled, flour dusting his apron. I've got just the thing. My ghost pepper and habanero surprise pies. They'll be begging for mercy. Perfect, Lily said. But that's not all. I need you to help me build something. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Lily sketched furiously on scraps of paper, her vision taking shape. Maya, with her knack for engineering, scavenged parts from broken appliances. David, surprisingly adept with tools, helped assemble the frame. Mr. Abernathy, meanwhile, hummed contentedly as he kneaded dough, the air thick with the pungent aroma of his infernal spices. By late afternoon, a strange contraption stood in the square. It resembled a giant, misshapen birdcage, with a complicated network of tubes and nozzles. At its heart was an old washing machine motor, repurposed to power a series of fans. It's a bubble blower, Lily explained, pointing to a large reservoir filled with soapy water and a secret ingredient she'd concocted from the town's depleted cleaning supplies. Mr. Abernathy's pies will cause, shall we say, respiratory distress. The bubbles will carry a concentrated dose of a mild irritant. Enough to incapacitate them, but not enough to kill. David looked skeptical. You think bubbles are going to stop a Zorgonian war party? Maybe not, Lily admitted, wiping sweat from her brow. But it'll buy us time. And maybe, just maybe, show them we're not as helpless as they think. The setting sun cast long shadows across the square. The Iron Horse statue, a relic from a bygone era, loomed silently. Tomorrow, it would be a stage for a desperate gamble. Lily looked at her friends, their faces etched with determination, and a flicker of hope ignited within her. They were just ordinary people, facing an extraordinary threat. And they were ready to fight, not with lasers or bombs, but with bubbles and spicy pies. Bubbles and goo. Lily watched from the bell tower, the town square a checkered tapestry of fear and forced civility. Grochner, the alien commander with skin like polished granite, stood stiffly near the makeshift peace table, a wobbly thing cobbled together from salvaged doors and crates. Around him, his Grathian soldiers, all Engels and Chiton, shifted nervously. It was time. She took a deep breath, the scent of Mr. Abernathy's spicy pies wafting up from below, a small comfort in the tense atmosphere. Her parents would have known what to say. They'd have calmed the fear bubbling in the square with a few well-chosen words, a disarming smile. But her parents were gone, taken weeks ago during the initial sweeps. Now, it was up to her. She adjusted the strap of the modified leaf blower slung across her shoulder. It was painted a garish rainbow and held a reservoir filled with Mr. Abernathy's latest concoction, a non-toxic, biodegradable, but decidedly sticky, bubbling solution. It was a peace offering of sorts. Or at least, that's what she told herself. Lily descended the winding stairs, her heart hammering against her ribs. The air grew thick with anticipation as she emerged into the square. All eyes turned to her. Grochner's granite face remained impassive, but she saw a flicker of something in the multifaceted eyes of one of the Grathian guards. Curiosity, perhaps? She walked towards the table, the rainbow blower a splash of color against the drab backdrop of occupation. Mr. Abernathy, his face smudged with flour and hope, gave her a small nod from the edge of the crowd. "Commander Grochner," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "We offer this, as a gesture of goodwill." She gestured to the blower. "It's a traditional Earth entertainment device. We call it a bubble blower." Grochner inclined his head, a gesture that seemed more grudging than gracious. "Explain." "It creates bubbles," Lily said, feeling the absurdity of the situation. "They're ephemeral spheres of soapy water that float in the air. Children enjoy them." She hefted the blower. "Allow me to demonstrate." She flipped the switch. The motor sputtered, coughed, and then roared to life with a deafening whine. Instead of a stream of delicate bubbles, however, the nozzle erupted in a frothy geyser of rainbow-colored goo. The sticky substance plastered itself across Grochner's granite face, dribbled down his armor, and coated his attendants in a thick, shimmering layer. The Grathians shrieked, a sound like nails on metal, and scrambled backward, their angular limbs flailing. Lily stared in horror. This was not how it was supposed to go. Mr. Abernathy, his face a mask of panicked surprise, slapped a hand to his forehead. The bubbles, far from being ephemeral, clung stubbornly to everything they touched. They stretched and wobbled, reflecting the light in a dizzying array of colors. Grochner, his face now obscured by the sticky mess, sputtered and swiped blindly. One of the Grathian guards, completely coated in rainbow goo, let out another ear-splitting shriek and began thrashing wildly, tripping over his own feet. Another slipped on the growing puddle of bubbling solution and crashed into the piece table, sending it splintering. Chaos erupted. The playground escape. "Withdraw! Withdraw, you blithering boggarts!" Grochner's voice cracked across the town square, the sonic amplification distorting his already gravelly tone. Humiliation burned behind his 3 eyes. The Earthlings, wielding water balloons and glitter bombs? It was an outrage. He'd commanded legions across galaxies, faced down sentient starstorms, yet he was being routed by children. The Zorgonians, momentarily stunned by his uncharacteristic display of, panic, started to obey. Their metallic boots clanged on the cobblestones as they about-faced, plasma pistols swinging wildly. This retreat, however, was not going according to plan. The first casualty was Private Gleepglorp. As he lumbered past the swings, a high-pitched whine pierced the air, followed by the unmistakable thwack of pressurized water. A sprinkler system, cunningly disguised as flower beds, erupted to life. Gleepglorp, already clumsy, slipped on the suddenly slick pavement, his pistol flying into the lily pond. "Curse these primitive defenses!" Grochner sputtered, trying to maintain some semblance of dignity, as he navigated around a brightly colored climbing frame. He hadn't authorized this particular route. Protocol dictated a tactical fallback to the designated landing zone. But protocol clearly hadn't accounted for this. From the bell tower of the old church, Lily Chin watched, her brow furrowed with concern. She hadn't seen her parents since the invasion began. The town square, once a place of laughter and community, was now a battleground. She felt a strange mix of fear and protectiveness, a fierce determination to defend her home, even if all she had was a good vantage point and a pair of binoculars. Another Zorgonian, attempting to hurdle a bright yellow bouncy castle that had inexplicably inflated in the middle of the square, found himself propelled backwards by an unseen force. He landed with a metallic thud in a pile of discarded plush toys, his antennae twitching in confusion. "Move faster! Faster, you invertebrates!" Grochner roared, his 3 hearts pounding against his armored chest. He spotted the landing zone, the far side of the square, near the old oak tree. Freedom, and hopefully a less embarrassing debriefing, awaited. Just as he thought he was clear, he heard a sound like rushing water. Before he could react, he was face to face with a giant, inflatable slip and slide, spewing a torrent of soapy water. It stretched directly between him and his ship. "By the great galactic grub worm!" he shrieked, knowing he was about to become the laughingstock of the entire Zorgonian fleet. He considered blasting it with his plasma pistol, but the thought of causing a chain reaction with whatever bizarre concoction filled the slide gave him pause. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and charged. The slide, as it turned out, was surprisingly fun. He whooped involuntarily as he hurtled down the slippery slope, landing with a splash in a paddling pool filled with giggling children, or rather, the Earthlings who had been giggling, before they scattered in terror at his arrival. Grochner, dripping and covered in bubbles, scrambled to his feet, his dignity shattered. The remaining Zorgonians, similarly bedraggled and demoralized, piled into the ship. The ramp slammed shut, and with a sputtering roar, the ship ascended, leaving behind a scene of utter chaos and a lingering scent of bubble bath. Lily lowered her binoculars. They were gone. For now. Victory in silliness. The Zorgonian vessel, a metal brute, lurched skyward from Farmer McGregor's freshly paved patch of pumpkins, its ascent accompanied by a mournful groan. On the external screen, Grochner's purple face, a mask of utter failure, flashed one last time. "Scatter! Abandon this backwater of simpletons! Engage hyperdrive! Earth is expunged from my memory!" With a shriek that left the greenhouse windows in splinters, the ship dematerialized, leaving the sharp tang of ozone and an aura of surreal disbelief. From her crow's nest in the old church bell tower, Lily watched it vanish. Her fingers, stiff with the chill, nearly lost their hold on the antique binoculars. Below, Harmony Creek stood motionless, a tableau vivant of collective shock. Then, a tentative cheer rippled through the townsfolk. It began with Mrs. Higgins, whose prized petunias had miraculously escaped obliteration. It surged outwards, a wave of euphoria and disbelief. People spilled from their homes, blinking against the sudden sunlight, their features radiant with relief. Children, their voices shrill with glee, pursued pigeons that erupted from the eaves. Even Mayor Thompson, normally the epitome of restrained dignity, pumped a fist skyward, his hairpiece listing precariously. Abernathy, the baker, stumbled out of his bakery, dusted in flour and glistening with a strange, emerald goo. He wrung his hands, his eyes wide with bewildered joy. Did it actually work? Did my ultra-strength, megaberry glaze seriously hold them off? He glanced around, half expecting Grochner to rematerialize and demand recompense for the unexpected tackiness of his starship. Lily scrambled down from the tower, her heart soaring. She landed softly on the cobblestones and wove through the crowd, raising her voice above the rising chorus of celebration. "Listen, everyone! Just listen!" The cheering softened to a sea of curious whispers. All eyes turned to her, the newcomer, the outsider who'd somehow become their unlikely champion. "We did it," she announced, her tone raspy but resolute. "We actually did it. We sent them packing." A fresh wave of cheers detonated, even louder than before, charged with a feeling of shared triumph that vibrated in their very souls. "But how?" someone called from the back. "How did we, a collection of bakers, farmers, and librarians, repel an alien invasion?" Lily drew a deep breath, letting her gaze roam across the faces of her neighbors. Faces she had once dismissed as humdrum, unremarkable, even tedious. But now, she saw them anew. She detected the quiet fortitude in Mrs. Higgins' gaze, the nimble wit of Abernathy, the unyielding optimism of Mayor Thompson. "We prevailed because they belittled us," she declared, her tone ringing with newfound power. "They arrived anticipating soldiers, expecting weapons, braced for a conflict. They didn't anticipate this." She swept her hand to encompass the town, the people, the sheer, unvarnished weirdness of Harmony Creek. "They didn't anticipate our ingenuity. They didn't anticipate our humor. They didn't anticipate Abernathy's super sticky glaze." The crowd erupted in raucous laughter, the accumulated tension finally snapping. Abernathy blushed crimson, but a proud grin stretched across his flower-coated face. "They presumed we were feeble because we weren't warriors. But they were mistaken. Our strength doesn't reside in our brawn or our arsenals. It resides in our minds, in our hearts, in our capacity to chuckle in the face of the utterly improbable." Lily paused, her voice softening to a near whisper. "We are ordinary people, yes. But ordinary people, wielding creativity and a dash of the absurd, are more formidable than any legion in the cosmos." As she finished speaking, a covey of pigeons, startled by the jubilation, took flight, spiraling above the town square like a feathered aurora. The sun dipped behind the distant hills, painting long silhouettes across the ecstatic faces. For the first time in ages, Harmony Creek felt unequivocally like home.